Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Ghosts and Spirits video. Alright, another entry here. This time not really based on anyone's suggestions. It was actually suggested by Yahoo. I love the Yahoo website, the main homepage, because it showcases a slew of interesting articles that adapt to the things that you click on. So in my case, whenever I click on more things, let's say ghost related, then it'll start adapting and suggesting other articles, which is fantastic. By the way, everyone, there seems like a slew of people that seem to keep suggesting the San Pedro haunting, and I'll go ahead and save that one for last. So I'm going to do one more video for this go around and dedicate it to that San Pedro haunting. I'm kind of delaying things because it seems like it's a lot and a lot of info to talk about, and those videos always take time, so I want to make sure that I have enough time dedicated specifically to that, so be on the lookout for it. But this one that Yahoo suggested, I love talking about because it actually has to do with a location. Those things, whenever you're dealing with an actual location that's purported to be haunting or have haunting experiences, that's the stuff that I enjoy, because the idea that you could just walk around that place, not see, not hear, not smell, not feel anything, but at the same time something else is just staring back at you, whatever is purportedly haunting that location there, that's what makes it so fascinating for me. And what I'm talking about is the abandoned park known as the Lake Shawnee Amusement Parks. There's just something inherently eerie about abandoned amusement parks. Every now and then there'll be a news article that'll trend on Facebook that has to do with some reporter or some blogger of sorts that visits abandoned parks and takes pictures of them. And the reason why they trend is because, again, it's so eerie to look at the pictures and see what should be bristling with activity is now decaying and rotting away there somewhere in the world. So that's what makes it so freaky, is because normally you would see people bustling around, jumping for joy, riding those rides, eating popcorn, whatever. And instead, you're looking at like a Silent Hill type rusted swing set of some sort, just decaying after so many years of neglect. So, pretty freaky stuff. With regards to the Lake Shawnee Amusement Park, it has some interesting history, which I'll talk about here, which could tie in as to why some people claim to this day that it has a haunting experience. So, we have to go back, if you want to go to the very beginning, you have to go back to around the 1700s or so. That area of land that makes up what is today the Lake Shawnee Amusement Park was in West Virginia. But back in 1783, it was home to a Native American tribe of some sort. And it's that deal where lots of people that came over during that time period and started taking up land, they were running into battles with Native American tribes. Obviously, that was their land beforehand, but the new people that were coming over, the new frontier, they were battling for that land. And so it was no different with this location here. What is there now, West Virginia, back then it encountered a violent turf war of sorts, particularly between one family, a guy by the name of Mitchell Clay and his family, and then several Native American tribes there in that area. It lasted for quite some time, and it got pretty personal, because it turns out that this guy Mitchell Clay was out hunting one day with some of his family, and he happened to come across some Native Americans, and they killed his youngest son, a guy by the name of Bartley Clay, during a short battle. His daughter, a girl by the name of Tabitha, was also killed because she was apparently knifed to death within that battle. And then not only that, but his eldest son, a guy by the name of Ezekiel, was also killed, but he wasn't killed beforehand. Instead, he was kidnapped by the Native Americans, and then, and this is pretty gruesome, but he was actually burned at the stake. So what a way for this guy to have most of his family members killed. Obviously, he was not having this just sitting down, so he decided to try to enlist others to help out with regards to keeping his claim and keeping his land. And so he brought others forth. They started hunting some of the Native American tribes. It became, just as I said earlier, a battle of sorts that lasted for quite some time. And I believe it ended up with him also being killed by the Native Americans. The Native Americans also during that time used that area there in West Virginia. By the way, it's specifically like Princeton, West Virginia. And they used it as a mass grave of sorts. So, you've all heard those stories. I mean, this is kind of stuff that Stephen King absolutely loves. The idea that whenever you build something on top of a Native American burial ground, that's when you have some ramifications later on. And so what happened is, cut forward to a good number of years later, you have to go to the 1920s, there was a businessman by the name of Conley T. Snido. He ended up purchasing that area that used to be owned by the Clays, and he developed it into an amusement park. And you're looking at some pictures here. These are pretty cool because these are just like the pictures that you see in those paintings, those impressionism paintings that showcase the like the whole new world, or whatever they call it, like the World's Fair of sorts. I love impressionism paintings, and I love seeing that time period because during that time, like in the 1920s, it was always about good times. There's a reason why they call it the Roaring Twenties, because everything was just about celebrating and having good success and enjoying your time. And so you see pictures like this, and you see that it showcases what their idea was of enjoyment, and then in some cases it's posting like in the World's Fair what their idea is of what's going to happen in the future. So very, very optimistic times. So he turned that land into an amusement park. He did the full gamut. I mean, he did a gigantic Ferris wheel. He had swing sets left and right. He had swimming pools set up. It seemed like he spared no expense. So he completely made sure that that was going to be one of the best amusement parks around. So the reason why it ended up actually failing later on, probably no doubt because of the upcoming war, but also later on, it turns out that there was some tragic circumstances involving some losses of lives. In one case, it had to do with a little girl who ended up being killed on that actual amusement park. What happened was she was riding one of those gigantic circling swing sets, and I believe this is the actual picture of the swing set, and she was riding it, and no doubt it was going pretty fast, and then tragically some large truck of some sort was completely oblivious. Whoever the driver was completely oblivious as to what was happening around him. He backed up that truck right into the pathway of the swing. So you can only imagine what happens next with the forces of acceleration, whatever, in terms of that swinging set going in full motion, and then slamming right into a steel truck of sorts. That was it. She was instantly killed. And so that was one tragic death right there. The other one had to do with a boy who also had a tragic death. He ended up, though, drowning in one of the amusement parks gigantic swimming ponds. So I don't know if there was a lifeguard there at the time. I don't know if there was someone else that was watching him, but for whatever reason, he actually got in the swimming pond and drowned, and so that was the second death. Totally, there was around, I think it was 6 deaths, but I don't know the other exact nature of the other 4 deaths, so someone might have to fill me in on that part. But it goes to show, and again, this is the kind of stuff that Stephen King loves, if it was built on this Native American burial ground, did any of that have any influence? Especially with the dark history associated with all the bloody civil wars, all the stuff with the Native Americans either fighting amongst themselves and then later on fighting with all these new settlers. Did any of that dark history eventually lead to, let's say, some kind of malice or some kind of malcontent, some kind of bad spirits essentially that hung around that location, so that when this new amusement park was opened back in the 20s, there they were harboring, just making sure that they could help take, let's say, some other lives. So it's up to you to decide with that. But that is one theory that people state. Eventually, though, the park shut down once back in the 60s, and it lay dormant. It was pretty much left there in a state of living decay, which I've mentioned in some of my other videos. It's that condition where nothing is changed. It just simply stays as is. So nothing is repaired, nothing is fixed. Whatever the weather does to all, in this case, the equipment, it just pretty much rots away as is. The park was bought over back, I believe, in the 80s by some other owner. But what had happened, it was short-lived. I don't know if that owner decided. It seems like he did reopen the park, but I don't know if he decided like it was going to be a competing park, let's say with Six Flags or any of the other gigantic parks of sorts. But it just lasted about 3 years before finally it was shut again. And then it was purchased yet again recently. I think it was about only a couple years back or so by a new owner. This new owner, though, is just doing, which probably is the smartest thing possible. They're just taking the park and leaving it as is, and they're leaving it open as a brand new, let's say, haunted visit of sorts. So if you wanted to go there today, you can schedule tours, and all you'll be able to do is just walk around, take pictures like the ones you've been seeing throughout the video, and try to experience what people say is something involving, let's say, a ghost or seeing something. The owner himself, I don't know if he's saying this because he's more along the lines of trying to promote, let's say, what the experience is today, but he has said that he has claimed that he's seen this little girl, which he presumes is the same little girl that died in that swing set accident from so many years back. And he says he sees her. She's wearing like a white dress of some sort. Her dress is covered in blood, and she sees him, and he stares back, and he says he can't move as long as she's staring back at him, and then presumably she just disappears, and then that's when he can move again. Also, he'll state that, and he was doing an interview of sorts, I believe, to the Travel Channel. He said that sometimes when he's passing like a set of wooden swings, or he's passing one of those other types of swings, the ones with the one that the little girl died on, that sometimes he can see that something is moving the swings, even though there's no wind, there's nothing blowing through the seat itself, and yet this thing is moving. And so when he travels towards it and he places his hand on the seat, it actually feels warm, as if someone were just sitting on that seat, when of course it should feel cold considering the temperature and considering no one was on it. But yet there he is. He says when you get to the middle, you feel something warm, and he states that he believes that's her spirit, the little girl's spirit, trying to communicate with those around. So eerie stuff. So there you go, the abandoned place known as the Lake Shawnee Amusement Park. If anyone has visited this location, it'd be great to hear about what your experience was. If anyone knows anyone else that has gone, that'd be great to hear too. I would love to go to one of these places one day just to walk around and again get that eerie sensation of just being someplace that it'll just be unsettling just walking amongst it, considering the state of decay that it's going at. So fascinating stuff. So alright everybody, thanks again as always. Take care. Bye.